and welcome to our interview with Harry, who is from Prospect100. And today we're going to talk about his tech hackathon. So, hey, Harry, how are you?
Well, good, thanks. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. So firstly, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do during the week?
Yeah, so a bit of a background. I'm 20 years old and I live in a fairly rural part of England. And during my week, um, I really kind of just run Prospect 100. We're taking it on full time now, and just trying to put on some amazing events and initiatives for young people so they can take their passions to the next level, hopefully. So, yeah, that's what I do full time now, really.
Amazing. And so tell us about all the programs that you have and why you decided to run Prospect 100's Tech Hackathon.
Yeah, so Prospect 100, we do competitions per year in the fields of music, tech, design, and engineering. And these are opportunities for young people from all around the world, aged 21 and under, to really just make their passion something which they can turn into hopefully a real career for them, and in the long term, but definitely at first just turning their passion into something real. And so we ran a global music competition recently, and there was an opportunity for thousands of young people from all across the world to, during lockdown and coronavirus, create a new piece of music and submit it and have their music heard by some of the world's leading authorities in the industry. And for us, tech was a natural progression from music. And it might sound weird, but when you look at the dynamic of our team, we've got one of my partners is a chap called Adam Flanagan, who's been running a series of hackathons over in Belfast, Northern Ireland, for about 5 years now. And those hackathons were something that were born for him out of frustration. He went to his first ever grown-up tech event, age 13, 14, and wasn't taken too seriously. And one of the things that we really believe at Prospect 100 is that young people are pursuing their passions in a really mature way right now, probably the most mature way than ever before, I guess, because people are now able to start businesses age 13 or 14, and to really think of their passion as a long-term project rather than just a hobby at school or their favorite subject. And so Adam created these hackathons in Belfast, Northern London, and they became really, really popular over there, supported by every major tech company you can really name. And so for us to have someone like Adam on board with the initiative, Prospect 100, it really made sense to go into a hackathon next, and to make sure that we weren't just positioned as seen as a music company. We're not just a company that does music competitions, but we want to be an organization that runs competitions across all those 4 fields and potentially more in the future. And so we wanted to have a really big tech competition to follow up our music competition, which was a real success. And so, and these events were really born at the onset of coronavirus, when, young people, like, as I mentioned, sort of locked in, really quite bored, and we have no idea when this is going to finish. But also, a lot of young people weren't sitting exams. Their university first choice, potentially they're going to be deferring now. Potentially a lot of young people were let go from their place of work or weren't able to find work. So, this was a time we felt opportunities for young people diminished in quite a great way, and so in quite a big way, I should say. And so we really want to be an organization that can give more opportunities to young people and really help them to just follow their passion. So whatever is going on right now for them, they're at least able to do something they're really passionate about and hopefully turn that passion into something real.
That is awesome. I remember when I went to my first hackathon, I had an 11-year-old on my team who was half my age, but it was really great because just helping him discover where his passion lies, because sometimes you don't really know. Like, I didn't know for a good 5 years after I started working until I was like, okay, I want to work in energy and innovation and that kind of thing. So I think you've definitely hit the nail in the spot. There are a lot of students out there, people who are young, who have got a lot of time and energy to offer. So that's fantastic. So you talked a lot about this competition, and a lot of competitions you run. So what is the process behind that? Like, do people need to apply? Do you validate how old people are? Like, what kind of challenges are set? How do they come up with ideas? How do they submit something? How do you evaluate the whole process? Do you want to give us a bit of an overview?
For sure. I mean, I won't claim to be the guy that, or like, whilst I'm one of the organizers, I won't claim to be the guy that's driving this. This is very much Adam's lane. I really took quite a strong lead on the music side of the competition. I think myself and Alexandra, who's one of the other organizers, music is really sort of where our passion lies, and so we took a great drive on this. And so tech, I'll give the best detail I can, but basically, young people can apply on our website. So what happens is you'll go onto our website and fill out a type form where you basically just give a bit of background to you. So what are your skills of a lot of this? Which skill do you feel like you best align with? I.e., do you see yourself as being more the technical side of the team, or being more the design part of the team, or the entrepreneurial, the business side of the team? Are you going to be the guy developing the revenue model? Are you going to be the person who's developing the user interface? And so you really outline your skills. And as I mentioned, it's 21 under, so we ask for your age, although we're not going to be checking your birth certificate. So if you're 22 and want to claim you're 21, then there's not much we can do about that. But we really find people based on their skills and talents, and also where they are. Are you in full-time employment? Are you freelancing, university, school? Where are you at? And so we can really create teams that then have a real multitude of skills, a multitude of backgrounds as to where you're currently at. So we don't want a team that's just people at school, or just people at university, or people who all work at Google or something, because you're probably going to find some unfair advantages. So we want to make sure the teams are really diverse in that respect. And then we also match teams, because it's global, based on time zones. So, obviously, if you're from America, you're probably going to be paired with people from America. As we found with this hackathon, we had kids from all around the world, literally. There are territories involved in our competitions that I've genuinely never heard of before, to be quite honest. Our last competition, we had 41 different countries represented. And so for us, it is as important really to match people on time zones as well as anything else. And so, that's the initial process. I guess we're doing mainly that. So all you need to do is register your interest and fill out the form, and we put you into a team with 4 other people who you've probably never met before, via Slack. We're really driven by Slack. And then we will, as soon as the competition starts, send out, right, here's what the hackathon is about, and here are 3 problems that we recommend you look at, but you're not required to stick to these 3. So I believe for this one, it was tourism, education, and hospitality being the 3 main. Obviously, with coronavirus, there are 3 industries that were really affected. And so developing solutions to help those industries come out of coronavirus as briefs. But we have teams that I know already have gone on to look at how we can help get audiences back into live sport, or gaming. One quite quirky one was to do with the ice cream industry, and how we can get ice cream vans to be serving more ice cream quite quickly. So I think that's quite a fun one. But so you're not restricted to those, but those are just recommendations. And then you're given a week in your team to hack away and come up with your presentation. And what we give is a guidelines for how the presentation should look, with an example in the back. So identify your problem, give an outline to your solution, etc. And so every team's presentation should look roughly the same. You shouldn't have one that's diversity, like really different, so the judges are left sort of wondering what on earth this even was an attempt to be. And then all of the projects are sent off to our panel of judges. Again, as I mentioned, we're really proud of our judging panels for every competition. We like to bring across a judging panel of real industry leaders. So in the case of this competition, one of our judges and our head judge is actually Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, who literally last night sent us through his thoughts on the presentations we sent him, which is super inspiring to see, I guess. To see someone like that be inspired or be impressed by some work by, I think that his favorite group was by a team of like 16, 17-year-olds. And so to see young people of that age really impress someone that's achieved what he has achieved, for me, is mind-blowing.
That's incredible. How did you get him?
Yeah, so that's Alexandra. That's where he is really an expert. We just kind of have the guts, I guess, to cold email, Instagram DM everyone and anyone. Obviously with the world of tech, there is that slight dilemma compared to something like music, because with music, everyone who's in the world of music is famous, right? Even if you're not a massive musician, you've still got a following, so people are still like it's in a way harder to reach out to people in the world of music, but it's also super exciting because, with every single individual, it's like, oh yeah, this name is like super interesting and compelling. And with tech, we want to build a panel of judges who are super respectable within the industry, but obviously, you can be a really high profile name in the industry. So for example, there is someone who we work quite closely with, who is one of the global directors at one of the world's biggest tech companies. In fact, it's the world's biggest company now, to give a hint at the company. And, to have someone like that involved is mega. But then when we go to young people to try and sell the competition, it's like they want to hear these big buzz names. And so for us to have Wozniak on board, it transcends the whole competition. It makes the whole competition super exciting. And to be able to say to our young participants that if you get into the final, you are going to be pitching to Steve Wozniak on a live stream in front of everyone that tunes in. I mean, what an opportunity. I hope that what we really want to bring out of these hackathons in particular is I feel like with a lot of events, young people turn up for one or two reasons, either to bulk their CV or personal statement, or because they're just bored. And I really want people to be actually excited by what we're doing, and to the point where actually, yeah, it's not only going to be an amazing thing for the CV, because I can say more than I partook in a hackathon, but actually I pitched an idea to Steve Wozniak. I developed this, we want there to be this real buzz that people are excited to partake, not just, yeah, I'm doing it for this reason, or like, oh, I've got nothing else to do, let's do it for that reason. Like, we want everyone to be excited. And I think Adam is the real reason that is the case. The hackathons he was running in Belfast, I'd never been to a hackathon before until he invited me to go and attend his. And, I had this image in my mind. I'll be quite honest, I'm not from a technical background, so I had this image in my mind where it's going to be a room just full of people bashing away on a laptop, and it'll be quite, I imagine it would almost be silent apart from you wouldn't hear anyone talking. And then you get there and it's actually a really vibrant room, and you've got all these young people, coming away with ideas and coming up with, solutions. You've got people who are there who clearly don't even know how to basically use a laptop, who are just kind of shouting at other people who do know. It's like, oh, we should do this, we should do that. And the buzz of the room was just crazy. And I think, I got really inspired by what was going on. And before that, if you'd said to me, Harry, do you want to go and partake in a hackathon? I'll be the first to admit I probably wouldn't have said yes. But now I really think my view has completely changed to not only would I want to partake in a hackathon, but I'd almost be quite like excited to partake in a hackathon. And that's why, particularly from my perspective as someone who I don't have any technical knowledge. I didn't study IT at school. I had no ambition to study computer science. I wouldn't describe myself as a technologist or anything. I am so excited to be able to put on a hackathon because I know that we can create events that other people like myself, who actually deep down, without realizing it, I would love to partake in a hackathon, but I didn't realize it. I want to encourage more people like myself to be partaking in a hackathon. And I think Alexandra, to an extent, is in a similar mind. He's very design driven. And the more we think about it, actually, what is a hackathon? And I really see hackathon as a problem solving competition. I think when you describe it as all you're doing is solving problems, and that becomes way more appealing to an extent. And a lot of young people actually come up with business ideas. So you need, as I mentioned already, you need someone who's going to build the idea, to come up with the idea, someone who's going to make the idea, financially viable. So you've got your person who studied economics who's coming up with the revenue model. You've got your person who's studying art or DT or something, who's coming up with the user interface and making it look, stunningly beautiful. And that's why companies like Apple are so successful, because you had your Wozniak and you had your Jobs, and it was someone who was the technical side, the design side. And so we can encourage people who study philosophy to understand why there's this idea that you've got to think up an idea and come up with a problem solving initiative. So when you combine the philosophical thinker with the problem solving of your scientist or your mathematician, and your DT student to an extent as well, with the design aspect of your artists, and then you've got your technology side of things who are building the idea. I really think, for us, that's where I really want to take this. I want this to be a super inclusive hackathon for anyone who just sees themselves as like, I'm really passionate about what I do, whether that is art or design or tech. Actually, a hackathon is a beautiful umbrella for all of you. And it's our job as organizers to make sure that competition is as exciting as possible for young people. And for me, I think to be able to build that judging panel of people who are, I'm really, really sorry, decline. Yeah, I'll make sure he doesn't call back. To be able to build a judging panel of people who are industry experts. So, whether that be people who are the top at PwC, EY, Twitter, Facebook, all these massive corporations, that is huge for us. But then also to get these more public figures, the names that people recognize straight away, like your Steve Wozniak, that can draw in the mainstream excitement for us. And then once you're able to draw in that attention, you say, actually, here's why so-and-so is so influential and important and so exciting in their field of work. So maybe you haven't heard of them, but here's why they are actually so exciting to you. And so,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I can
love
ramble
that.
on.
I totally
We want to,
resonate because I don't come from an IT or computer science background either. And my first time going to a hackathon, that was awesome. We had the hustler, the hipster, and the hacker scenario going on. I was the hustler, even though I didn't study business or entrepreneurship. Like I did communications, for goodness sakes, like who does comms these days? And like we had a designer, so someone who just graduated doing a design degree. And then we had the 11-year-old hacker who was just learning to code. And I definitely agree with you. Like anyone from any pathway can come on board. So let's go ahead and watch these presentations and Steve Wozniak.
I'm so glad to be a part of Prospect 100 because, young people and what they're doing. I go back to the times in my life when I was that age and learning. I told my dad I wanted to be an engineer first, a teacher second. The teaching, it was really learning is so important in our lives. And you don't necessarily learn in academic schools. You learn by talking with others, thinking out ideas. This would be something we could do. And eventually getting to the point, oh, I'm going to try doing a few things on my own, showing some creativity. So this has always been a high goal to me. It is also made because teaching, taking care of others that don't know as much as you maybe, younger people more important in my life. The younger a group is, the more I want to do it. Young school groups and older school groups and things like hackathons are very important to me. You don't just, all the press just wants to show up and, oh, the big successful guys who had companies and businesses and made a lot. And that, I don't know, that's not where my head goes. I go back to my high school. I was learning to design computers on my own. There were no books on it, no information, no other people doing it. You had to do it all alone, on your own, at home. It was just total geekiness, but it became important to me because what you're good at becomes important. It doesn't mean that you say, I am going to start a company, I'm going to change the world, I'm going to make something this. No, this is what I like doing. I'm just good at it, and I'm going to keep doing things that I enjoy. Here at college, learning to use electronics. I was an analog engineer first and then digital, both. And even in elementary school, I somehow became both that early. Really, really advanced. First year of college, those making TV jammers to play tricks on people. When you laugh, you keep wanting to do things. So you learn that electronics has a way to have laughter because other people don't know exactly doing it. And I taught myself how to design computers in high school. You couldn't get a manual that said what a computer was. Very lucky I stumbled onto things by luck, and an electronics teacher got me to go down to a company where I could actually touch and see and program a computer. And my computer dream came. I told my father, someday I'm going to own a 4K Data General Nova, because the Nova was based on an architecture that took into account the building parts for computers, chips in those days, and absolutely organized the architecture around those building blocks. So you didn't have to design very much. You just had to connect the right blocks together. We're far past that now, but it allowed me to, became in love with simplification, fewer parts, fewer stages that get a job done. This is hardware or software, but I had to have a 4K computer. 4K was the minimum amount of memory back then, and it cost, you could never afford it, but the minimum amount of memory that could run a computer program where you could type in some human sounding steps and get something accomplished. And my father told me, well, it costs as much as a house. And especially the most costly parts of all weren't the building a processor out of chips that I could never afford anyway. The real expense was I/O. How do you get input devices, teletypes and key punches and all those kind of things way out of the range of cost for a human? And one day I thought, well, I have an oscilloscope. I have access to oscilloscopes. I mean, you had to be pretty advanced in those days, so you didn't have that. If I could put out voltages, the right voltages, I could drag a beam around on an oscilloscope and turn it on and off and have white and black, and I could actually see numbers. I could have a computer that calculates something and can actually print a number. Eventually, in 1970, when I met Steve Jobs, actually, but a little before it, I designed a computer. I got some executives to give me some parts that I could never afford. I couldn't afford the simplest little logic chip. And I built a computer out of it. I basically designed a processor, all of my own, based on a few numbers of chips. And I had switches on the front panel. These are the old front panel days. That's where I came from. And you would flip a switch up or down, 1 or 0, and type in a binary number and push a button, and it would go into an address register. Then you toggle in a number in binary, 101111, whatever it is, and push another button, and it would store it in that address. And that's how you could load up memory with a program. Very slow, took a lot of steps. But 5 years later, a bunch of products were going to come out calling themselves, computers like the Altair, but all they were just a front panel where you had to go through this horrible step to ever get a program in. No human could do it. And for the input-output devices, only a company with money could afford it. And I wanted things for the average person. I got a job, luckily, designing the hottest products of the day, like the hottest smartphone today, but it was the Hewlett-Packard scientific calculators. I only had 3 years of college, but they interviewed me and hired me on the spot. While I was working there, though, I loved to come home at night. I didn't have to waste my time on parties and didn't have chances of girlfriends and wives and all. So I'd come home and I'd work on my neat little designs, did a whole bunch of different things. Some of expanding our phone freaking experiences. But I saw a game in a bowling alley called Pong, a little black and white TV set. And you could play a game and you'd pay more money than for a pinball, and crowds would line up to play it. It was new. It strikes you when something you never expected pops out of nowhere. So I designed my own Pong, because by then I could just think in my head all the logic designs of different chips and put them together and design my own Pong and built it and showed it off. And then I saw a person connecting to this thing called the ARPANET. Today, with the internet, reaches billions. Back then, the ARPANET reached 6 computers in the United States. MIT, UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, and a couple others. And I saw it, so I had to build it. Oh my gosh, I can build the chips. I already have the chips that put Pong onto a normal TV set. Why a normal TV set? Doesn't cost you anything because you already own a TV. So I converted it so I could type on a keyboard to a computer far away, and a computer far away back to my television. And if you put yourself in that mode where it had never been done or seen anything like this ever before, it's like the most exciting things in the world are going on. And then the Homebrew Computer Club started. And I didn't know what it was about, but I went to the first meeting, and from then on, every other one. Steve Jobs wasn't a part of that, although I did know him at this time. He was up in Oregon living on a condo. And I went to the Homebrew Computer Club, and I said, oh my gosh, this is a club where people meet people that help each other. It's like teaching and learning. Somebody would stand up during the mapping period and say, I have certain parts if anybody wants any. Other people would stand up and say, I have a problem with this one device. If you know anything about it, can you help me? Then we'd break, after an hour or so, we'd break into a random access period where you could go and meet up with people you wanted to talk to, who had made presentations or whatever. And I thought, this is all help others. I wrote programs and published them in our club newsletter because I thought this is the place that you can give. And my whole life was very much, it goes back to my social structure during the Vietnam War, but very much about giving to others who don't have as much. And that's what it was all about. That summer of 1975, the microprocessor for $20 got introduced, the 6502. Up till then, $400 microprocessor from Intel. Sorry, I don't have that much money. And the DRAM, the 4K DRAM got introduced. It was the first time ever that you could actually build a computer with 4K of memory with 8 chips doing it all. You had to put in a whole bunch of refreshing, maybe 5 more little $1 chips, but that was better than the 32 1K RAM chips, static RAM chips. And it was like 1/4 the cost, and it really made a 4K computer possible. All these things happened right at the right time. I was just in the right place. And I saw the formula to build my own computer. First of all, I just modified my little chip that could talk to faraway computers, put a computer on it. It's just logical things that you want for yourself. It's not thinking, oh my gosh, the world is going to have this incredible device. At that time, the amount of RAM memory that would hold one song probably cost close to $1 million. You don't imagine iPods and the the life we have today where everything can become digital. You just don't imagine that. And so I had this product, and my thing was to give it away. Steve Jobs wasn't around. He didn't know it existed even. And I took my computer design and my computer to demonstrate down to the Homebrew Computer Club. And I passed out my designs for free to help all these people that were talking about a revolution. People are going to own their own computers. I wanted to give them the ability to build their own computer and part of starting what they wanted to do. And when Steve Jobs came into town and saw a demo at the club, he didn't take me to a club, by the way. I'd been a member since day one. He'd never even been there. So don't buy into those movies with Ashton Kutcher and all. Oh, he's a good guy, Ashton Kutcher. But Steve came and said, we should start a company. It took 5 turn downs from Hewlett Packard because I would not do anything outside of my company that I loved so much. Hewlett Packard cared about people much more even than most technology companies ever do. Now, the Apple II was the hot design. I had it in my head, a weird method that I came up with when I was spending 4 days and nights without sleep designing Breakout for Atari. Came up with this weird idea of how color was waves in the analog world. But then I had these digital numbers, 0, 1, 1, 0. And if you put that 0, 1, 1, 0 onto a wire into a television, any normal analog television, the old televisions, it would show up as color because I knew how televisions work. This is just unbelievable. Instead of spending $5,000 to generate color, you just pop in the numbers. Unusual, out of the box thinking. And our first logo, of course, at Apple was, we were so far ahead of the rest of the world. Everybody else was trying to build the product I'd built 5 years before, which I called the cream soda computer with switches for ones and zeros and all that crap. Well, no, this was just human. You had to be able to type into a computer and get things done right away and not have a front panel. I hate ugly mechanical things. Of course, when I was young, I built huge science fair projects out of them. But, by then I just would rather go as much electronics. Like today, you might want to go less hardware. I'm just really good at software, want to work just with software. But anyway, our first logo at Apple, you just type a number into memory, precision memory. You type in a 7 and a purple square would show up on the screen. I mean, of your TV. This was just so easy to use. And our first logo was all colors because that's really what we're bringing the world. A lot of people don't realize that fun is a big part of what you do. And I was into games. I loved games, designing games for Atari and all that. But the Apple II was the first time ever that arcade games that you play became color. They were not from big companies like Atari starting an arcade games. They were all black and white. It was the first time that arcade games were now software. A 9-year-old could write a decent game in 1 day. And before that, it took a skilled engineer like myself, usually, 6 months to a year, to hook thousands of wires together on hundreds of chips to get a game to play, an arcade game. So the Apple II was a big step for not only just computers, but gaming. And I'm always for computers for the average person. It's not, anybody who has all the wealth in the world going to buy what they want and runs a company and all this. But it's like, how can the average person have their life influenced? The Homebrew Computer Club, we spoke of it as a person who knows how to solve problems in software can do more than they could as a single person. It was really, you have an idea, you no longer had to go through others. Maybe give them your programs to run where you work. You could do it yourself on your own computer. And that brings me here to this day. But I'll tell you, my college years, the years of a lot of people that are in this hackathon and all the hackathons that I'd love to judge, it takes me back to when, gosh, computers were the heart of my life. And I was now in a university. And even though Introduction to Computers was a graduate course, I got an A+ in it as a freshman. I could save money. I could get a job and save money and go to the computer store and buy a manual on some programming language, maybe some I don't know, that simulates things or whatever, some oddball language that they had graduate courses for. Oh my God, my computer was no longer inhibited. My mind could kind of go and explore the things it loved to. And that's why I'm here today. I love seeing all these projects of people that are, the age where you can have the most fun in your life and the most important times in your life, and especially for your development and what you're going to do in the future in your life and your own success by whatever measure it is. For me, it was happiness, not money. So I'm glad to be here. Let's continue. Let's go with presentations.
Hello everyone, I'm Shubham and we are Team 42 of the Prospect100 Tech Challenge. As we're all aware, dealing with the unforeseen challenges caused by the COVID-19 pandemic has taken a significant toll on people all across the world. We believe that a vaccine is the only way we'll be able to put a hold to this global pandemic and return to a new kind of normalcy. The current situation indicates that we can hopefully expect a COVID-19 vaccine in late 2020 or early 2021. Making those vaccines accessible globally to every single person will pose an immense challenge in terms of efforts and logistics. Keeping this big hurdle in our pursuit for a sooner post-COVID era in mind, we present our solution, Vaxxup, a globally feasible logistical solution for vaccine storage, deployment, and distribution. Oh, and you know what? Our solution has something to do with ice cream. Are you intrigued? I'll let my teammate Arnav explain more about our project now.
Thank you so much, Shubham, for that introduction. My name is Arnav, and I'll be talking about data and technology in regards to our project. Recently, a study by the Prince states that there's been over $1 billion lockdown loss in the ice cream industry in its peak summer season. This, coupled with the idea of having efficient, cost-effective, and sustainable delivery of vaccines globally, made us realize that does exist a vanilla spot, where the existing ice cream infrastructure ranging from temperature control, trucks, parlors, stand, and even vendors could be connected to the supply chain to efficiently distribute vaccines. Vaccines ideally need to be stored in temperatures of 8 to negative 25 degrees Celsius, when ideal temperature for an ice cream to be stored is negative 12 degrees Celsius, making it a rather compatible match. To give some perspective, a 25-liter ice block itself costs around $22 US. A dose of vaccines is around 1 milliliter, and with space for ice packs and containers, around 20,000 patients can be treated with one box. To cover the population globally, you would yet need around $440 million for the same. If you use ice cream trucks and parlors with the existing infrastructure, that extra cost is eradicated, and ice cream industry could recover. I would now like to invite Sibasis to talk about logistics.
Hi, let's have a look at logistical support that is provided by the ice cream industry through our app. The ice cream trucks with their cold storage capacity will help us in the transportation of doses from retail distributors to local healthcare centers. The local healthcare centers currently are not equipped to store a large number of doses. So we take help from the ice cream parlors and shops to use their cold storage facilities. Vaccine distribution in remote locations is made possible with the help of ice cream stands that can provide their cold storage support and also can move from place to place with the local health officials to set up vaccination centers. At the centers, health officials and nurses are deployed to safely administer the vaccine. Through the app, as the person registers himself to get vaccinated, we can fix an appointment for them at the nearest vaccination center. Now Naazneen and Rishita are going to introduce you to the social aspect of the app.
How would the vaccine travel? Step 1. Collection of vaccines from respective facilities.
They are transported with the help of temperature-maintaining ice cream trucks.
Step 3. The trucks reach local healthcare centers for further process.
After that, healthcare officials take up the vaccines and store it at the centers.
Lastly, after the patient visits for his appointment, he gets treated with his vaccine. Process. How does it work? The ice cream chain vendor partners with the government through request on our app.
After getting shipments of vaccine, inspection is done.
The location of vendors are marked on our app.
Distributors can keep track about updates and restock order through our app.
User goes and scans government ID at centers and gets vaccine.
On the day of appointment, user goes to the center, verifies his ID and gets vaccinated. Now I would like our teammate Vamsi to take over.
Thank you, Naazneen. With the advent of vaccine manufacturing, there might be instances of panic outbreak for the vaccines. In order to efficiently supply, Vaxxup comes up with a prioritization scheme. Healthcare professionals would receive the first doses of the vaccine. Doses to the infected areas would be following them. The coronavirus affected persons with a few health complications will receive the next doses. Following the first 3 sets of people, general public would be vaccinated. You might be wondering how the infected areas would be known. Our app has information regarding the color-coded schemes. Logistics support can prioritize vaccine distribution as indicated by platform. This should slow down community spread in the highly affected regions by ensuring fast-track supply. With that, I'd like to conclude the presentation.
Yeah, well, who would have thought COVID was related to ice cream? But yeah, very interesting presentation. And yeah, so Steve, if you have any questions, fire away.
Yes, I found it very interesting too. How did you come up with this idea, this approach for distribution?
So I think the idea came up when we were thinking about the long run. No one thinks about vaccine distribution. And the ideal way when you go to remote locations is maybe through a controlled thermometer box, like something which is controlled. So that's the idea which came up, where ice cream is distributed globally everywhere, even in remote locations. So why not make use of the existing infrastructure to kind of deliver on it?
And what is in it for the ice cream trucks that participate?
So I think the main thing is that they actually could get rental costs on it. So the governments, because all of these vendors are going through losses, the government kind of pays them a rental cost on it. And that gives them, it makes it a win-win situation.
Have you thought about keeping track of the supplies as they are in transit?
Yeah. So the idea is that the app, we're planning to make it on Flutter so that we're going to maybe have a Google Map API onto it. And then you could track the trucks, and you could even track the people once they've taken the vaccine. So, you've got to track on who's taken the vaccine, how many vendors need how many doses, and the transit times and the transit of the vaccines.
Okay, well, I'm very happy with this, so that's good enough for me. For first place, I got swayed quite a bit by Vaxxup, team number 42, and I just saw it as something that's out of the box, implementable, and who would have thought about this? And these modern digital days give us chances with applications to go around the standard status quo. This is how things are done, ways to really break out of the box. And I love I love the idea of when you get ice cream too, almost. But the distribution scheme, it's so different. It's not coming like from the top down of those who provide the vaccines. Here's how we will distribute it. It's almost like people came up with, here's a solution you might not have thought of, and it actually works very well. So that's my first choice today.
All right, so we have Team Accept here with us. We've got all the team members here, which is super exciting. So I'm going to get everyone to introduce themselves firstly. So Arnav, do you want to tell us first, so basically what you do during the week and why you decided to participate in the hackathon?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Arnav Jalan. I'm a second-year undergraduate student at Kriya University who is doing a major in economics and a minor in computer science. I decided to participate in the hackathon only because I thought it's essential that we actually find something to do post-COVID, because the trending topic today is COVID and how it's impacted us. But this hackathon was all about finding a solution to change our lives post-COVID, right? And I thought that was a really interesting topic because it's something we could actually make an impact by doing. So that's one of the predominant reasons. And also to obviously meet new people and collaborate. What do I do during the week? I think online classes on Zoom, definitely. But other than that, I think I do web development. I'm into gaming. And I just kind of explore different courses online.
That's awesome. So basically you do a lot of online courses, there's a lot of learning, and you're like, okay, COVID-19's hit. I'm going to see if I can network with people and get things done. That's awesome.
Basically. Yep.
Shubham, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So hi, I'm Shubham Lawyer. I'm a third-year undergraduate at the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. I'm majoring in mechanical engineering and minoring in both computer sciences and data science and artificial engineering. So I participated in the hackathon because we had a lot of free time. Our college wasn't really going on. I was doing an internship. I was exploring a bunch of online courses. And when I found out about this hackathon, I really like solving problems. And I also like meeting new people. So I thought this was the perfect opportunity to do that. So which is why I signed up. And it was a fun experience.
Lovely. That's so great because you're using all your skill sets and you've got extra time. So you're like, okay, how can I be proactive? And that's exactly what a lot of hackers do. Very proactive people who are there to ready to put themselves outside of their comfort zone. Rishita, would you like to go next?
Sure. So, hello everyone. I'm Rishita from India. I'm still a school student from grade 10, studying in Learning Path School. And I really don't have much of a technical experience because I'm following the school curriculum. And in the weekends, and I just do some courses from Coursera or other online classes that are going on. And yeah, I have a passion for STEM and from a very young age. So yeah, that plays a very important role in this hackathon. And honestly, I didn't know what a hackathon was before participating. And it's a really great experience so far.
What do you love most about hackathons now that you know what they are?
Well, you get like people from different parts of the world. For me, it's India, but then you get to know people and then you collectively work on a project that seemed really interesting. Like 1 week ago, all were like strangers and now we're like friends.
That's fantastic. How about you, Sibasis? Do you want to tell us about what you do during the week and why did you decided to go to this hackathon?
Yep. Hi, I'm Sibasis. I am from Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. I'm a sophomore in computer science and engineering. Mainly during the week, before the lockdown, I used to indulge in most of the sports. I love to play football, but during the lockdown, as everything ceased, so life had become a bit boring. So hackathon opportunity was something to try out something new and something interesting. It was my first hackathon as well. So it was, I just thought this will be a opportunity to try out something new and do something with it and followed with it.
I love it. Another hackathon newbie right there. Shri, do you want to go next?
Absolutely. So my name is Vamsi. I'm from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. So I got to know about this hackathon through my friend. He sent me the link to it and he was like, dude, check this out. Steve Wozniak is going to head judge it. And then I was like, whoa, that's great. I mean, I've always been a tech enthusiast. And both Steves, Jobs and Wozniak were like the ideals of a student who wants to get into the tech space. So I got basically very enthusiastic when I've seen that Wozniak's going to be there. And when I read the brief of what we're going to work on, that made the hackathon even more exciting. So that got me started. Before this even started, I mean, I was home for about 3 months without having any college or online lessons. I was exploring my interest and passion in technology in fields like data science and machine learning. So this was a great place to start after the lockdown ended.
Yeah, great way to upskill yourself, especially after 3 months of not really doing much. And Steve Wozniak is definitely like a game changer when it comes to being a head judge. Absolutely. Naazneen, would you like to also introduce yourself to us? Tell us what you do during the week and why you decided to participate in the hackathon.
So, hey, I'm Naazneen and I just graduated from my high school and it has been 6 months. I'm home doing absolutely nothing. So, we usually have, entrance exams for colleges and universities. It's just getting postponed. So I was doing absolutely nothing. Then I just saw this story popped up. Like I was so interesting. I've always been interested in any contest competitions because we meet people and if we don't have skills, still we have a chance to learn those skills. So when I just saw this, I just signed up for this. Then I was so ready for this. Every day, I just did absolutely nothing. And I think hackathon is a great way, like I'm not a technology person, but like after participating, I got to know a lot of new things. That's all.
Fabulous. I love how you said this is a good networking tool, and especially not everyone needs to be coding. So that's fantastic. So I'm going to throw the questions around now to Sibasis. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you found out about the hackathon and how did you meet as a team? So I heard that you guys were all strangers before. So how did you communicate with one another and form this team?
Yep. So actually, most of us knew about the hackathon from the website itself, and as Steve Wozniak was the judge, so most of us were participating in it due to the enthusiasm for that. And about the team, first of all, this hackathon was solely based on the idea that all the team members will be randomly assigned. So we were totally strangers. We did not know each other before coming into this team. And after coming here, we got a team formed, and then we were introduced to each other on Slack. And then we proceeded with our discussion to what to do and how to channel and what to do. So mostly that part was, the initial part was done on Slack, and after that we moved to Zoom meetings, and we then discussed our ideas and what should be our work plan and all. And slowly by slowly the idea evolved and a solution started to come up, and after that we all connected with each other through WhatsApp so that communication will be much more easier. And finally, with this line of communication, we came out with a successful idea, and thankfully we won the hackathon. That is also, it's a great news for us.
Amazing. I love how you communicated all those different communication channels, you know, going from Slack and then like talking to one another and eventually on WhatsApp, because I feel like in some places, a lot of people do use WhatsApp a lot. In some places, in my experience, people in the US don't use WhatsApp at all. They don't even know what it is. And I'm like, how do you guys not know about this? Like, it's such an easy way. But it's really great that you can talk to one another and come up with a great solution. So, Shubham, do you want to tell us a little bit about your solution and also how did you come up with it?
I would love to. So, towards the beginning of the hackathon, we were holding all these brainstorming meets where we were discussing ideas. So, the ideas we discussed first ranged all the way from augmented reality and virtual reality in education to basically coming up with alternate ways for transportation or tourism. So the core objective of the hackathon was to imagine a post-COVID world enabled by technology. And we realized that most of the ideas we were discussing didn't really align with our vision of the post-COVID world. They would basically make life better during the pandemic. So that's when we realized maybe we should try to first focus on getting us to the post-COVID world in the fastest, smoothest, and cheapest way possible. So that's when we started looking into how vaccine distribution generally takes place and how can it be carried out for a pandemic of this scale. And we noticed that even if the manufacturing issue was taken care of, the biggest issue was transportation and storage. So while trying to look for a feasible unified idea for all of these problems, we stumbled upon the very simple idea of using the existing infrastructure of the ice cream industry. I recall what happened. We were just discussing all these things and we were like, oh, how to do the transport for the vaccine. They have to be maintained at a certain temperature, and basically they have during transportation, that's a big issue. So I just blurted out all of a sudden ice cream trucks, and then Arnav was like, dude, I was thinking the same thing. And then we all just got super excited, did some preliminary research, and we were like, oh, this could actually work. So we just rolled with that.
I love it because you actually used knowledge from, and you were able to connect the dots from a different industry of ice cream trucks where they actually need to look at the temperature, look into what transport lines everyone needs to go through. And there's such a big and long kind of like supply chain or value chain behind it, and replicating that for the vaccines is such a genius idea. That's so fantastic. I love how you just looked at something. Obviously there were many ideas that you came up with and eventually got into this one. So Arnav, do you want to tell us about how you worked together as a team to deliver this? Like, what were your strengths? How did you complement one another? How did you work together as a team?
Yeah, definitely. So I think Shubham already summed up how we even got the idea. So our first brainstorming session was a complete failure. like Shubham said, we just didn't know where we were going, and we were like, sure. And then we met again, and then that's the time this came up. So what we did was, I think we were very formal with each other at first, like we really didn't know each other. So what we did was we actually started like kind of understanding each other's skill sets. So on Slack, we started introducing each other, understanding what we really do, what we're studying, and kind of, getting to know each other and where each could contribute. And then the biggest thing that we kind of realized, once we finalized the ideas, how do you really get perspectives from different stakeholders? But then what we did was we started with just getting different perspectives from our team itself, right? So for Vaxxup, we, had different perspectives, which I just bring up very simply. But we had the social, we had the ethical, we had the technology and the data. And we also had the overall perspective of us as students, right? And like the sustainability aspect of it was huge, which played a role because we don't want to, given that how important the environment has become and climate change is a reality. And I think everyone claims that COVID has kind of benefited the environment. So one thing we want to ensure that in vaccine distribution, we kind of ensure that sustainability is met. So we divide ourselves amongst this. So for instance, Shubham worked predominantly on the introduction and to introduce the idea. Naazneen and Rishita worked on the social aspect. Sibasis looked into the logistics, Vamsi on the ethical, and I personally worked on the technology and data aspect of it. So then we scheduled calls like on a daily basis, kind of, and sometimes a few of us were a no-show. Sometimes we had to postpone it. Sometimes it just didn't work out, and we had to go back on Slack. And sometimes none of us did work, so like we had to like pester each other saying, "Today's the deadline, you've got to do it." But I think over the course of a few days, we just didn't stick to work. We shared laughs on various incidents over the course of 5 days. We were productive. We were like very helpful to each other. And the main thing is we were passionate about the idea, but we also had fun while kind of developing it and putting it all together. So we had to ensure that whatever we did, even though we were doing it individually, we had a cohesive argument, and we kind of worked together at the end to consolidate it and incorporate it into one final pitch.
Excellent. And so when you were actually put together as teams, I suppose it wasn't too random because you all had complementary skills, right? Did you have to put that in your submission form?
I think we did mention our university, and then I think the universities that we all go to were pretty like self-explanatory on the skills we have. Like we've got 3 people from IITs, which I'm predominantly tech. I'm from a liberal arts university, and we have 2 students who like Rishita and Naazneen who've come from school. So I think, like you said, it kind of, you could say it's controlled, randomized is what I would say. But yeah.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So I'm sure like with everything that you're putting forward, there would have been a lot of tools to create your minimum viable product or your prototype. So Rishita, do you want to tell us a little bit about which tools you used to create it?
Yeah, so we didn't create a product yet, but it's just an idea that was drafted in like a week. So it's pretty raw. But for pitching in, we use like basic stuff like Google Slide, Adobe Photoshop to create the app template. And just a few days ago, we were discussing about how this whole idea, we are thinking of creating a website and an app through Flutter. So we can reach, and we're thinking of also reaching the Indian government first. So we have start from India and then reach out the other parts.
That's fantastic. And what do you hope to achieve after, it's been a couple of weeks since after the hackathon. Do you have aspirations to work on it? What does that look like?
Yeah, so just mention like we are going to make an website. We first trying to get people from professional field to guide us on how we can move forward because we're not experts. So that's how we're going to start, and I'm looking forward to see through the scale of discrimination that takes place in different rural parts of India. And so if we can reach them, this will be a great project.
Fabulous. So Naazneen, I just want to ask you, how did you feel when you had to pitch in front of Steve Wozniak, like in terms of preparation and your drive and determination? What was the energy level like?
So first of all, we were really excited, but like we still had major downfalls. Like when it was our turn to pitch, so our audio didn't work. So like we all were so nervous, like what's gonna happen? How are we gonna do it? So they later postponed it. So we were supposed to go last then. Then later on, things turned out great, and like then like Then later on, like everyone just complimented, this is a great idea, this is out of box. So we still had hope, like we could win this thing. In like we still like went through a lot of troubles. Like when we were making pitch, like we had to add our audio. So we were speaking turn by turn, and then later on, like if someone just forgot their lines, they just messed up, then we had to go again through the starting, like when we were making the audio for our pitch.
Awesome. That would have been very nerve-wracking, like going, oh my goodness, the audio isn't working. What do we do? It happens to every single person. So Shri Vamsi, do you want to tell us a little bit about the highlights, your challenges, and any key learnings you got from this hackathon?
Absolutely. So hackathon, I think, is just the first step towards achieving a much larger goal. So if not for this hackathon, we wouldn't have probably come up with the idea of Vaxxup. Currently, as Rishita said, we are working to create a product of Vaxxup in order to implement it in real life. So our hackathon, you can say, as the platform in order to achieve all this. Speaking of the learnings, we all learned how to interact with a complete group of strangers, not just for the sake of passing time, but in order to create something alongside while we were against a race with the time. So we had to create something new. We had to finish it in a couple of days. We had a complete set of strangers in our team. I think our team was our very big strength. Everyone was contributing to the project very well. In fact, people were working on the presentation till the last minute of the deadline. Though the deadline was scheduled at around in the midnight in our country, according to Indian Standard Time. So people were racing against the clock in order to finish the presentation and make it appear good. So I think the most important learning that I would take up from the hackathon would be to how to interact with complete unknown people in order to create a very, very important project.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing all your insights and how you actually got together. I really love your last point there. Like, you guys are all strangers working together, and we don't normally do this often, especially us being in our homes all the time. Like, personally, I'm an introvert as well, so sometimes it takes a lot of effort to kind of get out of the house. But why can't you just work on a hackathon, meet some people, network? Everyone has different skill sets, learn a little, win a little, and even network with people like Steve Wozniak. So thank you so much for your time, and maybe I'll see you all at another hackathon.